This week we will be starting the book of Genesis and Parshat Bereishit, the Torah portion of Genesis. And this is an extraordinarily exciting time of year when we return in Parshat Bereishit to the core existential questions of human existence. We're reminded of our core humanity, our core freedom, and our fundamental responsibility with questions such as Ayeka, where are you in the world? And Hashomer Achi Anochi, am I my brother's keeper? Are we responsible for one another? And we also learn the very first mitzvah, the very first commandment of the Torah in this portion. Peru urvu, be fruitful and multiply. Now, of course, according to the most basic interpretation, this has to do with reproduction, and we should all be very active in this regard. But even further, it is about human creativity. The Yanklowitz explains that Peru urvu is actually about spiritual creativity, that we are fulfilling the mitzvah by being mechadesh. When we emulate God, who is mechadesh b'chol yom ta'amid ma'aseh Bereishit, who is constantly engaged with acts of creation, when we emulate God as creative beings, that we ultimately are fulfilling the mitzvah of Peru urvu. And so we can ask ourselves, how can we create this year a more just, fair, and equitable world? How can we use our creative potential to do that? And I think one of the greatest barriers that we all are struck by is our fear of failure. We don't create because we are afraid of failing. However, we can be reminded that Leonardo da Vinci destroyed many of his canvases. Thomas Edison created thousands of light bulbs before the first light bulb truly works. And Einstein once said, I have not made thousands of mistakes. I have merely found thousands of ways to do things better. And so, even here from Bereishit, we learn that God, in the Midrash, we learn that God actually created 10 worlds and destroyed each world before this one. We learn from this that even God went through a process of experimentation of creation. And so too, we should not view acts of creation as merely failures that don't work, but rather as opportunities to learn and grow. I want to wish us all the blessing this coming year that we return to these core existential questions of existence, of our responsibility, of our freedom, and that we strive to tap into our core potential to be as creative as possible in the world, to emulate God, who is mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh Bereishit, and to fulfill the mitzvah of Peru urvu, to engage in moral and spiritual creativity in the world, to create a more just, a more responsible, a more fair and equitable world for all people. Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova.